This show is brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast.
Robots Radio presents The Elder Scrolls Lorecast.
Welcome to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, a place where the Elder Scrolls community can come together to discuss the boundaries of our knowledge about the universe of the Elder Scrolls. Well, guys, there's always a surprise when starting the show. This time the video didn't trigger, but we got sound. So
awesome. That's
kind of cool. I can fix that in post when this goes up on YouTube. Perfect. But welcome back. This is the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. This is one of my favorite events. At the end of every month, we have our patrons on to discuss a topic of their choosing. And this month, Lotus of Doom gets to join me for this as well, which is super fun. So the party has grown. Some of our patrons haven't been able to make it. Right now, we have Kung Fu Kangaroo joining us. Kung Fu Kangaroo, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
It's going great. Thanks for having me on, Tom.
Yeah, well, thank you for supporting the show, and I'm always excited to talk to new patrons, and we might have Bob Chichinski jumping in with us later. Some of the regular faces who usually make these shows, things are kind of going on, things have been busy. The world is a little crazy right now. I don't know if you've realized this.
Is it?
Really? Amazing.
I thought we were in a lull. There was nothing interesting going on.
Yes.
The States specifically very quiet.
Right, yeah. So it seems that life is a little busy for some people, but here we are, and Lotus, of course, is joining me again. Lotus, how are things?
Things are well. I'm definitely not the thing you were just referring to, not having video. Everybody got to watch me totally bringing up the game on a second screen to watch Thursday Night Football at the same time. Nice. I feel like Bob Chichinski watching the playoffs from last time.
Very cool. Yeah, Bob was very animated the last time.
He was polite enough to mute, so it made it way funnier.
It was way funnier.
He was just swearing at nothing because we couldn't hear it.
Right. It almost looked like he was like reacting emphatically about the things that we were talking about. You just couldn't hear him.
And you couldn't hear him, exactly. Yeah, see, I'm not invested in this game. I just have it on a second screen.
Yeah. If you didn't see if you weren't here for the live version of that, or you didn't see the video, you should go to the Robots Radio YouTube and look up the video. It's pretty funny to see him constantly reacting in the background while the rest of us are talking about Elder Scrolls.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I was laughing.
It was hilarious. He's like throwing his arms up every like 2 minutes. He's like, and you can clearly, if you mouth read him, you can clearly tell that there's some F-bombs being dropped. Yes, it was. It was great. It was great. But we are here as usual. It is Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/robotsradio to do our live show as we've been doing every week. And this week, our topic is our favorite non-companion NPCs. So we're not talking about the ones that you can bond with in Skyrim and carry around and take around with you. None of those people. These are NPCs in the game that you encounter and can't bring with you on quests or can't influence them in very, companion-y type ways. So this opens it up to basically anything. I mean, we could go into Daedric princes. We could talk about some of the minor characters with interesting little side stories that you learn about. We could talk about, a corpse on the ground that left a letter, and you find out that they had some sort of run-in with a bear, and you're like, oh, that was really fun. So why don't we open this up, Kung Fu? You've probably been thinking about this a little bit. Do you have?
Yeah, a little bit.
Do you have a favorite, or are there kind of a selection of some of them that you just kind of genuinely enjoyed?
Oh yeah. Games? So right now, I certainly have a favorite. Right now, it is a scamp.
That's awesome.
It's a scamp in Morrowind, and it's not the scamp merchant. It's actually, because a lot of people know about the scamp merchant, right? But this scamp's name, I don't know if I'm saying it right, so you'll have to forgive me.
Oh, but it's always a grab bag. Yeah, just go for it.
Yeah. This scamp's name is Lustadrike. Okay. And he is a unique scamp, and he's in a shrine to Shia Goreth in Morrowind. And I'll just tell you how I found him, because I think
I don't know about this at all. So yes, please.
I don't either. I'm looking him up right now, and it's super Googleable, because I started to put in Morrowind S, and it was like Scamp Merchant was the first result.
Right. So there's the Scamp Merchant. I forget what his name is, but then there's Lustadrike. And I found this guy in a Shia Goreth shrine. just walking around aimlessly. I was like, I guess I'll go loot some dungeons. And then when I walk in, all of these NPCs keep asking me, they're like, oh, are you here for the party? And I'm just thinking, what is going on right now? Like, this is weird. And I don't have any mods on my game installed. And in fact, I'm playing it on Xbox One because on the store now. But so I walk and I get to the final room of the dungeon and I see a scamp. And like, before I go right away to kill it, I notice that he's not going after me. And I'm not a sneaky character. Like, I walk in there with like a battle axe and just go to town.
And he just doesn't care. So he's like non-combative. He's just like,
right, non-combative.
Whatever, buddy. What's up?
And so I see him. I walk up. I start talking to him. And he's like, "Hey, man, you want a drink?" I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but
that's
basically, awesome. He asked if I want some sujama, which is like an alcoholic drink in Morrowind, and I thought it was the funniest thing because if you accept it, you have to drink it with him. Like, there's no option. You have to drink and take a shot with the dude. And so it's pretty funny because it was after that I learned that it was a Shia Goreth shrine. And then after that, I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay. This all makes sense now. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be Shia Goreth who has a wacky scamp who's offering you drinks. Like, right. That makes sense.
Yeah. Why wouldn't it be him? Right.
Right. Yeah. Right. Man, that's awesome. So did you, in the pre-show, if you want access to some of the pre-show conversation and you are a patron, a tier 2 patron or higher, then you get some of the pre-show conversation before we go live. But in the pre-show, we were talking with Kung Fu Kangaroo about how he got into Elder Scrolls. And you, back in like 2004, originally were playing Morrowind when it came out. Did you find this scamp during an initial playthrough, or was this something that years later you ran into?
No, this is something I ran into yesterday.
So you have, holy crap. So this 16 years later, after playing this game, you ran into this. That's so great. I love like the little things in these games that you can completely gloss over and miss.
Playing the long game.
Yeah. Oh, it's so easy. The best part about, and it's another one of my favorite non-companion NPCs. He's standing and he's drinking with the scamp, and he's an orc. I forget what his name is, but it's easy to find it. Just Google it. And he is utterly convinced that he's Gajit. And like, if you talk to him,
that's great.
If you talk to him, he asks you, he's like, "Don't you love my tail?" And if you say like, "Why, yes, I do," then he's very visibly like, well, I guess not visibly, because it's Morrowind, but he says, "Oh, well, like, thank you. That makes me very happy." And then, like, if you have moon sugar, there's like a random encounter where if you have moon sugar, he'll tell you about a little gift that he left you under his pillow, and it's this legendary like gauntlet.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, that's the stuff. Okay, so there is a reason why I love Bethesda games. I'm a big fan of a lot of their properties. I talk about Fallout a lot. I love Fallout. I have a place in my heart for the Elder Scrolls games that I don't think Fallout will ever quite match. And this kind of wacky stuff happens in Fallout 2, for sure. Like, Fallout's full of wackiness, right? But it's this, like, running into a talking scamp and an orc who thinks he's a Khajiit. And then, like, there's something about the fantasy world of just, like, that stuff happening in a way that, I don't know, it's just compelling to me.
Well, especially when it relates to some of the Daedric princes who really kind of bend the fourth wall almost sometimes. Yeah. Where it's like they almost make reference to like more than just the game. Like they start referring to the game in certain points and stuff like that, which is a unique situation that the fantasy game has as opposed to more of the science fiction version of Fallout type of deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only thing close to that in something like Fallout would be things alluding to this idea that we are all in a vault experiencing this together and it's not actually happening for real. Like, there's some of that, but that's about the closest thing you get to like breaking a fourth wall in Fallout. But it happens all the time in Elder Scrolls. One of the things I wanted to bring up in this episode is everybody's favorite liar, Mike. And speaking about breaking the fourth wall, like that is a character who is from the ground up every time he shows up designed to some people believe break the fourth wall, some people believe is integrated into the story because he's actually Lorcan wandering the world. So it doesn't actually break the fourth wall. It's just the perspective of a, very powerful deity who is now beyond existence in some way.
Sure.
But, a lot of people would say, well, no, he's just kind of the voice of the developers, kind of throwing in these little nuggets. Do you guys have any, we should do an episode on Mike. I've been meaning to do that. This is something we should do.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot there. But do you guys have like a place in your hearts for Mike the Liar?
Yeah, I do. Yes, and let me tell you why. So I remember the first time that I noticed that he was really even, he exists, was I remember like in Oblivion or Skyrim, and I was like, wait a second, I've totally seen this guy before.
Yeah. And I think that's usually how it happens. You go, wait a minute, didn't I run into this guy in the other game? Yeah, like I know this is familiar.
Who was this seedy guy just hanging out? And I remember I was like, I think I was messing around with console commands on Skyrim, and there he was just getting chased by like some trolls. It was pretty funny.
So there's kind of two things. One is recent, as I've been like achievement farming in ESO, and one of the achievements is finding Maik in all of the, I believe it's 17 base game zones.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he actually will appear in every zone on a set pattern, but there's a certain amount of waypoints that he could be at in each zone, but it's randomly picked which waypoint he could be at, and he will just be wandering around doing his own thing. And if you can find him in all of the zones, you get the achievement Be Like Maik. I just managed to do that like a little while ago, so it's kind of neat to find him in ESO. But the weirdest thing that I have that I like about Maik, and it's super, speaking of fourth wall breaking, you need the console command to do this. There's no way to do this like legit, but have you guys ever seen where Maik is placed when he's not roaming the wastes of Skyrim?
No.
He is in a box. There is a programmed square. It is made out of cobblestone, and he is just standing in it. And it's just this creepy square. You can probably look it up on YouTube, but he's just hanging out there. And periodically he will be picked up and he will be dropped into the world to start roaming around, which you can potentially find him. And then he goes back to his box. So,
yeah, that sounds like a requirement for the engine in order to keep him in active memory or whatever.
In active memory, exactly. Right. But it's just funny because if you look at it, he looks like he's in his own little prison cell. And it's just like really depressing because he just like stands there, and like if you watch him, he just kind of like walks around in his cell until he's just allowed to enter Skyrim again. I was like, oh man, poor Mike.
Right.
Until the gods deem that he's able to be placed back into the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Mike doesn't sleep. He waits.
No, he doesn't sleep.
Right. Maybe that's why his comments are so profound. He has all this time like alone in solitary box just thinking about things.
Years of meditation.
Right. But yeah, it's just creepy. And that's like, for some reason, that's always what I think of now. Once I saw that, that's the first thing I think of was Maik, is his poor little chamber that he's just placed in until he's deemed worthy to go back to Skyrim again for a while.
Poor guy.
They like slide some cat food under the door.
They just keep him scummad up until.
Scummad up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There's got to be a phrase for that. I mean, high, I guess, would be it, but. So
here's some moon sugar. Knock yourself out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So Lotus, do you have a favorite NPC?
So I've got kind of two, one of which is really obvious to most anybody who knows me. Hermaeus Mora is like my favorite character in pretty much all of fiction. I think that
wow,
he, she, it glob thing is like the coolest. I love.
Why not Hermaeus Mora? Yeah, yes.
Exactly.
Right.
My first appearance on the show, and we got a shirt made out of the joke.
That's still one of my favorite shirts on the store.
I love mine. But yeah, I love Hermaeus Mora. I just think he's such a cool character. I always man, the Dragonborn expansion to Skyrim was like everything I wanted all at once, because I'm a huge Morrowind fan. That's my favorite game of all time. And then they were like, okay, well, we're going to give you this, Soulstime expansion. So you're going to get your Morrowind vibe back. And I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I want. And they're like, also, the main protagonist that's joining you, well, you're going to join forces with Hermaeus Mora. I was like, well, okay, I guess gaming complete. This is both of my favorite things all at once. But he's probably just like my all around favorite. But referring back to Morrowind and stuff like that, the Mudcrab merchant as opposed to the Scamp merchant, I love the drunk Mudcrab merchant. He was, for the longest time, my favorite character in that game. Like,
the fact he has so much money.
He's got 10K, which blows anybody else out of the water in that game. And then him just being drunk and stumbling around all the time was just very entertaining. And the thing, I'm very much, I don't like save scumming in games. I tend to oh man, if something goes wrong, I just need to deal with it. Not even for like role play reasons. I just like to see how it plays out. And I like to try my best to fix the situation, especially if I caused it.
Sure.
Which in Bethesda games can get weird because sometimes it can be out of your control and somebody spirals into the sun or something. And it's like, well, that quest is going to be hard to complete. But,
yes. Yeah, true.
But I used to use that Mudcrab merchant all the time. I'd make runs back when I played this. I would just accumulate all my crap and I would go there and I would just stack it up and I would sell it in bulk and I would sleep. And then I would wake up so his inventory would be refreshed and I'd dump off the rest of the stuff until my inventory was clear. And one of the times I slept, you get awoken when you get attacked. So I was sleeping next to the Mudcrab merchant so that I would progress to the next day. And it said, you've been awoken, blah, 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 from a Daedroth. And I was like, what the? And I'm looking around and there's nothing here. And I look off to the side and the Mudcrab merchant is upside down and the Daedroth is just like swinging wildly at it. And I'm like, oh my God, no. So I ran over to
not my Mudcrab merchant.
Yep. And he murdered my Mudcrab merchant.
Oh no.
Which was the worst. So I took all the useless crap that I brought, and Morrowind didn't have physics. You could just place items and they would just hover until you hit memory limit, which was surprisingly high. So I took all the crap that I brought to sell him and I built a giant gravesite out of all the crap. I just kind of stacked it up.
Like a trash mound in his honor.
And it wasn't really a cross, but it was like, if you picture like an archway, it archwayed over the Mudcrab. And then I had like a little holy symbol like above, built out of the garbage. And that's where I left him. I was just like well, yeah. So I just left him there, and it was pretty crushing. I was pretty sad because that tempted me. I was like, oh, maybe I could just save and go back, but
that's a great story.
And yeah,
I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of that in that exact scenario, actually, because like I would take a bunch of stuff to the Mudcrab merchant. I'd sleep, wait for his money to refresh, and then boom, monster right in front of me, and the crab's dead.
Yeah, and it's
I'm thinking, well, I'm gonna have to reload an earlier save. This is
right, because that is oh man, that like my income was just done at that. I mean, granted, I was a billionaire at that point, but it was wildly irrelevant. But they don't have points in video games. I like collecting riches just for the sake of it.
You're like a dragon hoarding everything.
Yeah, hoarding all of my septums.
So
in Morrowind,
I did that exact thing on this recent playthrough. Not 16 years ago. I didn't have the patience for that back then, but I did that. I hoarded so much gold from the Mudcrab merchant, and in Morrowind, it's not so clear cut and dry how you can get a house, but you can get a house.
Yeah, not at all.
If you progress through one of the main 3 Great Houses missions, they give you a stronghold, which is pretty cool. It's a cool concept.
That's awesome. I love the Telvanni one.
Yeah, the Telvanni one is really cool. I went Redoran this character just because I think when it comes to Morrowind lore, the Redoran are kind of like this I don't want to say all American because America doesn't exist.
Sure, yeah, that wouldn't make any sense.
But you know what I mean.
Patriotic to a country that exists in another reality.
Perfect.
They're like this classic, like very like warrior spirit type of house. So I went with that, and then I have this stronghold, and I have all this gold, and I think Morrowind is one of like the few Elder Scrolls games where you can drop gold on the ground.
Mm-hmm. And it's a physical item.
Yeah. And so I turned it into like a version of Scrooge McDuck, like jumping into the tub full of gold.
That's awesome.
And so every time I go back into the stronghold, I'm like, I'm so rich. This is awesome.
I'm just going to swim in my gold pool. Man, that's awesome. Yeah, I obviously have not jumped into Morrowind enough to experience this stuff, but it's becoming more and more appealing now.
Yeah. Now, there's for a game that outdated, it's both got its drawbacks because of its age, but also you can do some weird stuff. Like not having it's been so long since games kind of didn't involve physics. Yeah. You can just build structures in that game. Like it was construction and, camp building and all that stuff that they have in their games now, which is awesome. But back then it was just like, okay, I need to make myself a shelter. I know. I'll just kill a bunch of Halalu guards and I'll use all their helmets and I'll just build myself a hut.
I thought you were going to say bodies.
Roll away.
Just put their bodies into some sort of like dome to protect you.
So, stack them up, and it's like, all right, I live here now. This is where I live.
This is my house made out of bodies.
I would do it with cliff racers just because.
Oh my god, the cliff racers!
Yeah, I hear they're pretty terrible.
Ugh. The sound effect.
Yeah,
I have PTSD from that.
Yeah.
So some of these stories remind me of just the wackiness of, and I know we're not going to talk companions, but I have to bring up stories of companions. How many times in Skyrim would you be on some adventure deep in a dungeon and then turn around and realize that your companion's no longer with you?
Oh yeah.
And you probably accidentally murdered them with like a fireball or something.
Yeah.
And like, at the beginning of the dungeon. And
right, like 3 hours ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's
I gotta trigger the trap and they've been stapled to a wall for 45 minutes. It's like, whoops.
Right. Yeah. One of my favorite stories from just reading people posting stuff on Reddit years ago was somebody who I don't remember what the specific details were or which NPC it was, but they had extremely bonded with this NPC. This was their companion of choice. They had their own headcanon and story for like why they were on these adventures together and what their relationship was and these kinds of things. And lo and behold, they accidentally murdered them. And I guess something happened with the game where they couldn't load back to before it. So then they decided to drag the corpse of that person all the way back to the home city where they came from in order to give them like a burial.
A proper burial.
So it had spent like hours, not because you can't fast travel, you lose the body. Right.
Yeah, you lose the body.
Yeah, just, using the physics in the game to drag the corpse down like they were up in some mountain, cave somewhere, all the way down a mountain, all the way back, fighting things along the way to keep the body safe, and then, take it back to the home where the person came from or whatever it was.
Funny.
I wish I could remember the details, but that's the kind of stuff that is just like, it's just amazing. The fact that you can do that, but it also is really silly. It's not like you're scooping up the body and holding it like you would a human body if you were carrying it while walking.
Right.
You're dragging it down the steps, and the physics are just flopping around.
Ragdoll.
Ragdoll physics in these games are ridiculous because it's just like, I killed this skeever, and then the next thing you do is like, I'm going to pick up the skeever, and I'm going to knock all this stuff off the table with the skeever. Right. And it's like you've got it by like one piece of its haunch, and you're just flailing it around.
Right.
Like,
or you pick up a coin, and somehow that triggers the physics for everything else on the table, and everything else just moves.
Yes.
My favorite physics mishap is Skyrim. I don't know if you both have the Hearthfire or if you play the Hearthfire DLC. So sometimes there's a glitch on Xbox anyway. I don't know if it's on other systems, but sometimes when you walk in, just as soon as you walk in, everything like explodes. Everything goes off the table.
Yeah, it's like the physics kicks in and then everything conflicts with everything else, and it's just, yeah.
So I don't know. what the reasoning is, but I was always under the impression, because I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like you go in and just everything explodes in all directions. I think based on like its load, this was just what I always was under the impression of. Based on the load order, it loaded in the items on the furniture, but then loaded the furniture. So technically they're superimposed. And because of the Havoc engine, it's just like, crap, it's all there right now. Boom. And it's just like stuff flies in all directions.
Welcome home.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, Bob just mentioned in chat that he'll be here in 10 minutes.
Perfect.
So here, let's bring it back around to other NPCs. I pulled up in anticipation of this. I searched for just like best NPCs in Elder Scrolls games, and there's a list here in the top 10's website of best NPCs in Skyrim, and I kind of just want to run down some of these with you guys and just get a sense of like what, like from a 1 to a 10, how would you vote this NPC?
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Yeah, no, I'm down.
Yeah.
All right, and these are just Skyrim. I couldn't find a big list including all of Elder Scrolls or Elder Scrolls Online or anything else like that. But just real quick, we'll run through some Skyrim ones. So we're gonna start number 10. I'm gonna go to 1. So we have Legate. Is it Legate? Is that the pronunciation? Leggett.
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 Oh, Leggett?
Yeah.
Okay.
Leggett Rick. Do you remember Leggett Rick?
Leggett Rick.
Rikke. Rick.
Yeah.
Rick?
I think technically her name is pronounced Ricka.
Yeah.
Ricka.
Leggett.
Is it Ricka?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I know who you're thinking about. So what is it, a 1 to 10 on?
Yeah. Just do you remember? Do you care about this person?
I remember.
Would you rate them as?
I actually, from what I remember, if it's who I'm thinking of, I think she's actually pretty cool. I think she was one of my preferred Imperials. If it's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So here's the description, just for everybody. Leggett Ricka is the chief legate of the Imperial Legion under General Tulias. Ricka is a Nord and believes strongly that Skyrim should be a part of the Empire. I believe she's the one you talked to at the beginning when you're sentenced to be beheaded. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, I like her. She's actually, this is exactly who I thought of, actually. Yep. I was going to say, she's like a strong 7 or an 8. She was actually one of the people that I really liked with the Empire, because I'm big into the Empire as part of that. I don't believe Skyrim is for the Nords. Skyrim is for the Empire.
Wow. So just planting that flag down right there. All right.
Plant that flag down right now. Right. Skyrim is for the Imperials.
Ulfric was a plant. Ulfric was a Thalmor plant.
Oh, man.
You? Now,
we need to have, and maybe we should do this on the next one, is have Empire versus
controversial opinion. Yeah. I was
people could actually heed it. Then Bob's throwing up his hands actually because of
he's like
podcast.
Yeah. The Thalmor are propaganda. Yeah.
Yep.
So
I would say a solid 7 or an 8. She was actually one of my preferred characters in the Imperial Legion.
I'd agree. I would also say probably 7 or 8, just because I think her personality and like from a role play perspective, she fits into that story very well. I don't know really how to elaborate more than that, but I think that she just fits seamlessly into the narrative. Like it doesn't seem like someone had a pet project and just threw her in. You know, she fits in there.
Yeah. So she was 10 on the list. There are others obviously beyond 10, but she was given 10th place. Seems fitting. It seems like there's probably better ones, but she seems pretty solid, right? So number 9, Mike the Liar. Number 9, NPC. Classic.
Yeah.
We already talked about him.
That's pretty low for an MP. I would have expected Maik to be higher than that.
Yeah, so there's 8 more that are higher. So
I was going to say, I would also have Maik rated pretty high, because he's like, I'd be like offended if there was an Elder Scrolls game without Maik now that he's been established.
Oh yeah, for sure. But your interactions with him are very limited. He doesn't really play into a major storyline. Somebody like Ricka is part of one of the main forces in the game. There's a little bit more story going on that side of things.
It's just he's so iconic at this point. So I would have him as like a 9, because he's just super, super meaningful to just the series in general.
Yeah. Kung Fu, what do you think?
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think there are certainly characters that I think are better, as in more important, maybe, but I think he's very iconic to the Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
That kind of humor, certainly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to number 8 here. They have listed, and again, pronunciations, Mjoll, Mjoll, the Lioness.
Oh, Meol the Lioness.
Is that?
Yep.
So, for a reminder, a Nord warrior, she traveled Tamriel exclusively and claims to be experienced and well-traveled as one can be. She and Aaron may be found in the Bee and Barb Inn, wandering around Riften or in Aaron's house at night. She's, very Nordy, has the blue face paint.
Yeah, super Nordy. I remember her because I'm actually checking these people right just in case I don't remember them. I remember her,
sure.
And for some reason, I remember wanting to like her more than I actually did. I actually, unless I'm mistaken, I think I actually sacrificed her to the you get a follower to go to the post for Boethius Proving.
Yeah,
that did. I think I hired her and put her on that.
Oh, wow. All right.
I don't think she made. I feel like her dialogue annoyed me or something. Because I remember thinking she was going to be really cool, and then shortly thereafter being like, "Yeah, all right, we're all set here. We're done."
Okay. Kung Fu, any thoughts on that one?
Not really. I'm not too familiar.
Yeah. So, some of these things are, like either you played through those quests and you ran into that person or you didn't, so, or they were just somebody in the background and you never paid attention to them. So, I don't have a huge recollection of what she was about. It says here that, she's a potential marriage candidate. She was very much against the Thieves Guild. She can be recruited into the Blades. So
interesting.
Yeah, there's some interesting things you can do with her as a character, which is cool because maybe go back and play it and see.
Because I don't remember her being as interesting as I thought she looked like she would be. Well, with the Braveheart style face paint.
Right. So number 7, we have Serrano, and this is obviously a companion NPC, but we're talking NPCs in general at this point. So what do you think about Serrano? She, reminder, she was the vampire lady who you meet at the beginning of the expansion with all the vampire stuff.
I thought kind of, even if her storyline was like a little bit of a trope, you know what I mean? Even if it was a little bit cliche or trite, I thought she was a great companion.
Yep.
Like any companion, you get sick of hearing the same dialogue lines in the background after a while.
Your burdens, but
she was pretty cool. I'd rate her a 9.
Yeah, I liked Serrano as well. Partly for the meme value of anything I would kill, she would resurrect it no matter how inconvenient.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, that was always pretty funny. I tend to never play mages, so I'm up in combat like sword and shield or dual wielding, and she's just whipping ice bolts at the back of my head, and I'm like, okay, seriously, just a little better direction. But I liked Serrano, obviously not as much as some of the creepy fandom around Serrano, but that's
welcome to the internet.
Well, exactly, welcome to the internet. But no, I actually thought she was a pretty cool, and her story is dark. People like to latch on to different parts of this series for various things, but and a lot of people like the vampire situation that's going on even in ESO right now. But it's like, man, the concept behind vampires in Elder Scrolls is dark. And if you talk to her about her creation, it's like they cut it off because they didn't want obviously an AO rating, but it was like, ugh, this is grisly. So I thought she had like you said, it is kind of tropey, but I thought it was like a good tropey. Like they did a good job with it.
Yeah.
She was also a bridge to identifying with the vampires potentially as more than just bad guys.
Yes.
And seeing them as
equals bad.
Yeah. Seeing them as people.
Yeah. She humanized them.
Right.
Certainly.
Very much so.
She definitely humanized them.
Yeah. And I think that was smart. All right. Any other thoughts on her? No? All right. Let's see. We're up to number.
Freaking awesome.
She's freaking. Bob's here. Bob, you're welcome to join us on camera, dude.
I am going to pass on camera this time.
That's fine. That's fine.
Disheveled.
So
My post-work self, you know.
yeah, welcome to the show. So we're running through. I found a list of top 10 Skyrim NPCs, and we're kind of running through, kind of just giving them our own ratings and seeing if they make sense in the places they were placed. We're up to 7. So 10 was Leggett Ricka. If you remember her, she was the one of the.
You know, I was listening on my way home, and I was like, "Yeah, I have no idea who."
Yeah, you don't remember, right?
I remembered the Tulias, but I was like, "Ricka, no."
Yeah, Tulias was. He's the voice actor, the guy that was on Battlestar. He was recently. He was recently in the news. The older guy with the gray hair. I forget his name. The actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he was also in New Vegas. He's the doctor that you meet at the beginning of New Vegas. Same actor.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. I didn't know that.
Yep. That's probably why it sounded familiar.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Same guy. So 10 was Leggett Ricka. 9 was Mike the Liar. 8 was Mjoll the Lioness, and then we were up to Serrano. So number 6 on this list is Jarl Ulfric Stormcloak. Did you guys?
Plant.
Yeah.
I can't get over it.
I mean, I guess you probably either have like. He's one of those guys that, like modern politicians, you either love or hate.
I like to dislike him. So he makes a good character for me to not want to support.
Right. And I feel like, especially now in today's atmosphere, if you go back and play Skyrim and you listen to some of the things that he's saying, this guy is a nationalist, and it's pretty hard to, like, you know, really identify with him because he's very exclusive by nature. The Stormcloaks are like, you know, only the Nords are allowed here. And then, but beyond that, I mean, I knew there was a reason why I didn't like him from a story perspective. For most of the game. And then, like, I think you can find it when you go through some Thalmor documents at the embassy, right? You can find that he actually was in correspondence with Thalmor. Or something along those lines.
Without obviously going super
This needs to be another episode in the future.
Yeah. He was captured after a pretty humiliating defeat, if I remember correctly. And basically it almost seemed like he was overcompensating by trying to be like, no, I need to make something of myself because I got embarrassed before, type of deal was what I always took it as. And then there's also what you were mentioning. There's the chance that it's like, okay, well, was he also planted there? Because I'm not going to lie, causing civil war there, really just undermining both opposing factions to the Thalmor and the Dominion. It's like, ugh, gross.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about this a little bit with the Reachman recently too.
Right. And the question is, was he accepting foreign interference to help his campaign? But from a not story perspective, like from a breaking the fourth wall perspective for Ulfric, I thought his character was too static. I didn't like, I mean, the writing is the writing, and I can't do better than that, so I'm not going to criticize that. But I thought he was too static, and I just thought he wasn't relatable. He wasn't really compelling as an antagonist if you chose the Empire's side. But if you chose Stormcloak, because I played both, he wasn't really compelling as a protagonist either. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So in chat, NetCWC says Ulfric was kind of a Scottish rebel vibe, Jacobites or William Wallace.
Yeah, the Jacobites are like a William Wallace. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, interesting. By the way, chat, if you guys have any other NPCs that you think we should be calling out at the end of the episode, feel free to throw them in there, and I'll try to pull them up as we get to the end of the show. So would you consider this too high on the list for being 6?
I would.
Too much credit. I mean, obviously he's an important character, but
he's an important character. Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean he's a good character.
Right. I like I said, I think he makes like a good, like, okay, he could be a solid enemy, or I guess if you are in favor of that, that's fine. Like, but yeah, he just, there's no way I would place him above Maik.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
specifically, it's like that seems weird to me.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. And this one, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on. Number 5, Ayla the Huntress. And here's my question here. Badass and awesome character, or the internet just thinks she's hot, so...
Yeah.
Which one? Or maybe just a little bit of both.
I feel like it's both.
She's super cool, but like, again, it's the internet. What rule is it? Rule 13 or 34, rule 34 or something? I have no idea. Whatever number rule it. But yeah, that aside, she's cool, but she was never like somebody I cared that much about personally. It's the Fighters Guild wasn't super the Companions.
Companions, yeah.
Yeah, my mistake. Definitely not Fighters Guild.
They are kind of just the replacement for the Fighters Guild in Skyrim.
Right. Yeah,
so.
they're the same thing.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, she never really. She kind of just blended into the group for me, but she seemed like a cool enough character.
Yeah, I thought she was cool, but I think probably my aversion to the Companions was like enough to make me think that she's not that awesome.
Bob, do you have any thoughts?
On Ayla specifically, not really, but on the fact of the Fighters Guild and the Companions, Dog called me out on the last episode because I said the Fighters Guild of Skyrim was the Companions. No, it's not exactly what it is. It's like,
it kind of is. It kind of is.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you want to get all technical, it's technically not.
But, of course, yeah, no, it is definitely not, but it kind of is still kind of, yeah.
Look, I'm not pointing fingers at killing rats or not killing rats for one of your intro quests, but I'm just saying they have one strong similarity, and it involves rats for your intro quests.
And like, I don't mean to pull it back to Morrowind again, but I was surprised about the Fighters Guild of Morrowind that it is so different than the Fighters Guild in Oblivion and the Companions, where the Companions in Skyrim and the Fighters Guild in Oblivion, they're like mercenaries, but they're not that sketchy.
Right. Yeah.
Morrowind, they're very sketchy.
Yeah.
They are. There's so much of
everything in Morrowind is pretty sketchy.
That's a fair point. There's so much of the unreliable thing going on with the quest givers in Morrowind for the Fighters Guild that if you go to other Fighters Guild quest givers, there's multiple, sometimes they'll tell you to not even listen to that quest because it's not legit.
That's cool. That's cool.
Morrowind is very unique. That is definitely, I think, game design of a different era where they put tons and tons of effort and writing into things they expected you not to find. It's like, no, you're going to find this or you're going to find this. Unless you play this multiple times, you're not finding both of these. And that's not super a thing because that's so many resources like spent on things you're like, there's just this random cave and it's going to have this neat little snippet. And it's just like, okay, well, how many people are going to go in that cave? Most people don't even finish games, let alone just arbitrarily explore this cave next to this rock.
Right. And I'm a completionist, so that drives me up a wall.
Yeah. It's a very different philosophy to game design now, for sure. Okay, so maybe Ayla's a little too high on the list. I think it's kind of what we're getting here.
Yeah,
okay.
I would bump her down.
So number 4, I think he's another one of those love him or hate him characters, Cicero.
I hated Cicero.
The reactions
so much.
But don't you just love to hate him? Isn't he just terrible?
I definitely enjoyed hating him.
Yeah, yes. the way he talks almost like a Joker knockoff. When he would do this with his voice, and then he'd the Night Mother. That thing. Mother. He would like that the whole time.
The whole time, dude.
Yeah, the whole time. I was very shocked to find out that when our daughter played through that was her favorite companion. I was like, wait, what? You kept him with you? And she was like, oh, I just love his dialogue. And I was like, you are insane.
Oh, wow. No, I would have that behind like townsperson number 3 in Daggerfall. Like they couldn't be farther down on my list.
I actually like him. from.
We got a couple people. It seems
So,
like that like.
I actually like him from the fact, like, just because he's so out there. He's so out there, and he's memorable.
He's
super
He's memorable.
Oh yeah.
I think that's like. Don't get me wrong. I would if he were, or if I were in the game, I would never want to spend more than 30 seconds alone with him.
Right.
Even maybe 3 seconds actually, but he's still so out there, and the writing for him is so good, and the voice acting is also just amazing, right? That I think he's indispensable as a character.
His journal when he was on the trip to the area is super neat, because it's just like, day whatever and then day whatever, and that's how it does jumps in days the way they write books. And that's the thing, is like his descent into madness in his own journal, if you read it, is really amusing, because he starts totally normal, and by the time he's reaching Skyrim, it's like, wow, this dude has no semblance of sanity whatsoever left.
I was gonna say that it was like, it was so tragic, and you're like, it's very amusing.
Oh yeah,
They're the same thing. They're just two sides of the same coin, right?
Comedically tragic, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
So he's like one of those theater clowns. He's crying, but he's also a clown, or whatever it is.
Right. You laugh because he's sad. Oh, dark humor. All right. Well, hey, tell you what, we're up to the top 3 here, and then I also want to give Bob some chance at the end to kind of share any of his favorite NPCs that he wants to call out. But let's quickly do the middle of the show in order to do that thing. And because this is not a normal episode, we have a dragon sound all of a sudden.
The skies are marked with numberless sparks, each a fire, and every one a sign.
Well, thank you guys for joining us again for the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, and thank you to our patrons, not just the ones who can join us on this episode today, but all of our patrons who help support the show. It really means a lot, and it helps me get closer and closer and closer to making this a full-time thing. So if that's something that you would like to consider doing in order to make sure that I can keep doing this show, then please check out patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast and check out all the different tiers and the kinds of things that you can get for them, including ad-free episodes, and Tier 4 members are able to join us at the end of every month in order to come chat with me and Lotus about all this fun stuff that we love so much. So go check that out. Also, this show is brought to you by our network sponsors, including sponsors like audiobooks.com, where you can get 3 free audiobooks just for clicking the link in the show notes and signing up, and you can pick out whatever books you want. And Lotus and I have talked about this on previous episodes. There's lots of good stuff. Pretty much everything we've looked up is on there. So if you're into audiobooks, if you're into listening stuff while in the car or working out or at work or whatever, go check that out. It's really easy to get set up, get your books, and you don't even have to pay anything. So easy peasy. All right, let's get back to the rest of the show.
Yes, you're entirely brilliant. Conquering madness and all that. Blah, 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 blah.
Man, that dialogue right there was perfectly timed, because Shia Goreth is number 3 on our list. So I'm sure this was probably in the back of your minds when you're thinking about this, like who's going to be in the top 3. Do you think Shia Goreth is worth being in the top 3?
As a Skyrim character, I don't know.
Yeah, as a Skyrim character, I agree. He doesn't belong in the top 3. But if we were talking about Oblivion,
yeah,
I mean, he has an entire expansion based around him and the stuff going on in Oblivion. So obviously that's a much bigger piece of his lore and his character. But you don't think there's enough in Skyrim to make him a top 3 character?
I mean, there's that like interesting theory of how the hero of Kvatch could like technically mantle Shia Goreth. So like, are you talking to the hero of Kvatch and like, Skyrim as Shia Goreth? So that like in itself is a very interesting thing. I don't know if it gives it. Like I don't even think I remember Shia Goreth's quest in Skyrim. So
you get the Wabbajack.
I remember the Wabbajack.
Pelagius's self, where he's got self-doubt, and you're in that weird realm, and you've got to fight the There's the little version of him fighting the big version. You have to keep wabbajacking him.
Okay, yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, wabbajacking. That sounds dirty.
Look, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I don't make the rules.
What do you want to do, Tony, tonight? What do you want to do? Just think maybe have some wabbajacking. Oh, honey. Spicy.
My head.
So-
I'm not in the mood.
I'm not in the mood. I just want to watch my shows.
So this is going to be a spicy take. I think Shia Goreth is like hyper overrated. I like his character, but like the meme value of him is really what puts him as like so many people's favorites. The thing with the cheese and all the
Yeah, and he's wacky and crazy, like Cicero's wacky and crazy, or like it makes him stand out, right?
But in Skyrim, to your point, it's not nearly as memorable as he was in Oblivion with his Shivering Isles expansion, and that whole story with the Grey March I thought was really, really cool. Being the skooma cat is kind of his bits of being the skooma cat in the Elsewhere expansion was kind of interesting in ESO. But honestly, I think
pure gold.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie, especially with the without spoiling it, it involves a ball of yarn, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But my favorite, and this is gonna be like super esoteric, as like 40 people probably have the Legends card game story with him. Probably the best version of him.
I didn't play through that.
Yeah.
I've played through parts of it. Have you?
Yeah, he's not funny. It's the insane side of him for a change. And it's
sinister.
Horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's like really dark, really fast. It was like, good Lord, this is not the goofy, jovial version of him. It's like, oh, you're actually nuts. Like, yikes.
Well, he says things that are crazy, but rarely in the mainline games do you actually see him follow through with them. So he'll say things like wacky thing, and then he'll go into his dark phase and he'll go, or I'll just tear all the flesh from your body. And it's like, oh, that got really dark. But then you come to learn that like, he's not really going to do that stuff. Things are going to work out for me in this world. And so he seems like he's all talk. Right. And then, cheese joke again. But that side of him is, if that shows up more in the games, like, would make things balance out a little bit more. And then there's that feeling of nervousness when you talk to him about like, this, I don't know if I should laugh or if I should run away. This is actually frightening because there is a very good chance he's going to try to skin me alive.
Yes. And that's much more shown in the Legend storyline, which is, well, I kind of like that because it was the darker side of that insanity. I mean, if you read some of the books, like the Accounts of Madness and stuff like that, some of those stories is like, okay, this dude is messed up, and that's not portrayed the same way that it is in the games. Usually they go with the more jokey atmosphere than the crazy atmosphere.
Yeah.
And just a side note, the artwork in Legends is just amazing.
Yeah, him on what is it, on a throne, like holding the is it a wabbajak, or he's holding something in his hand, a skull. He looks like the Leoric pose from Shakespeare.
This is pretty off topic. Well, actually not, because it relates to the art, but it's one of the few things that I always love to bring up is I actually can put it in chat for anybody who's here, as well as if you ever see my profile pictures on things, all of my channel artwork for my Twitch was done by one of the Legends artists, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. He actually was under NDA when I asked him to do it. So he just was like, oh yeah, I totally can do this. And I was like, oh, great. Like, he's like, yeah, I've been practicing a lot, but he couldn't say why. And then after Legends launched, he was like, yeah, so this is my card. This is my UI edition. I was like, dude, that's amazing. He's like, yeah, why do you think I'm so adept at drawing Hermaeus Mora? I had to do it like thousands of times. I'm like,
oh, that's great. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So probably a little too high on this list for Skyrim specifically.
Yeah, for Skyrim specifically, I'd say that's his weakest entry.
Yeah. Okay, so here we are, number 2, Jarl Balgruuf, the Jarl of what is it, Whiterun?
Yep, Jarl of Wyvern with
Yep.
the dancing gift.
Yeah, everyone sit like a Jarl.
Yes.
Yeah,
All
every
the time.
time I
All
think
of
of
them.
Moral Bargrove, I think of the game Poops. Those videos, if you guys have ever seen them, they're really funny.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. So yeah, he's pretty great. I mean, he is what I think of when I'm thinking of Jarls in Skyrim.
Yeah.
It literally-
Traditionally, he's the first one you meet. He's the
he's the first one you meet, and it's just like, you are like the template for what I expect from this.
right. And what is with the Jarl sitting pose? All of them do it. It's the same exact sit. It's the like lean back. You know?
It's a powerful, you know,
Yep.
It's-
way
yeah.
to sit.
Right. Everyone else
huge.
sits up. Like everybody else sits on a chair and they do like the sitting up thing with
Yeah.
the straight back, and they're sitting there and they're looking at each other like they're in a board meeting and they don't want to be called out. You know?
Yeah.
But like the Jarls like are the ones who are like
Mildly
super
disinterested.
relaxed.
Right, they're like Bender from Breakfast Club.
Yeah. So do you think he deserves a number 2?
No, I don't think I mean, he's pretty cool as a Jarl, but I mean, like, I don't know if I'd put him as number 2.
Like, what number was Serrano? Like,
Yeah,
that's
Serrano
what I'm-
was 7.
Yeah,
man.
like, no, she should be up the list. Yeah.
Shia Goreth could probably drop. We could probably switch Shia Goreth and Serrano. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
Jarl group. I mean, like, he is like a staple of Skyrim. Like
top
Lotus
5.
was saying, like, yeah, I could see top 5.
but not 2.
But when you think Jarl, you think him. Like, that's the image. Boom.
He's very definitive of like
lot of people.
the mood of the world. He ties into the main quest line, the stuff that happens at Whiterun. He's one of the first powerful people to acknowledge your importance in the main quest line. He's got important roles, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, maybe he goes down a little bit too. Maybe Mike moves up a little bit. Yeah,
Mike and Serrano, I feel like get the short end of this list here right now. They're the 2 notable ones, and I'm like, we brought them up way too early.
Right. All right. So number 1, we're all the way at number 1, and I think maybe this one makes sense. Parthernax.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking badass dragon dude who is obviously key to the story.
So I gotta ask, did anyone choose to kill him?
I was going to ask the same thing. And you
Oh.
are a monster. Absolutely not.
Right, like, nothing against you if you did, but we're also not gonna be friends.
Yeah, exactly.
So just-
Right.
Nothing against
Not in my first playthrough.
you do it just to see what it was.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was
try.
when I play Skyrim, it was like I have to do every little possible scenario of everything. So, and then of course, the game usually doesn't let you do that because it will break at some point. So
That's
you
valid.
just got to keep your fingers crossed. But I
Yeah.
definitely remember killing Parthernax at some point. But I remember the first time being like, man, I kind of feel like I should, but I'm torn. And I'm not going to.
Yeah, I like the blades, but their dedication to like, all right, cool, he helped us. Now let's kill him. I'm like, yo, that was a weird change of opinion here, real quick. Like,
Right.
I think we would have won this last fight if it wasn't for why do we need to turn him into a rug? That seems weird. So
Yeah. Also, he'd be a really stiff rug.
yeah, I
not very
can't
soft.
imagine he'd be very absorbent either.
No, you'd stub your toe on him when you walk through the living room.
Yeah.
You'd be like, ow, dragon scales. Ow, dragon
Not even
scales.
functionally good as a rug. So like, really, you're just killing him to be a jerk.
Yeah, pretty much. So he also has the quote about overcoming your own nature. Is it better to be born good or isn't it something like that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it sounds
yes.
vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
That's like one of the
Yeah,
most
is it better
famous
to-
quotes.
I was going to say, I can't remember the exact wording of it, but yeah,
Right.
is it better
I'm looking
to
for it right now.
be born good or overcome your
Your evil nature through years of effort or something,
Yeah.
something like that. So the equivalent is something like that, like which is better. And the idea here is like, no, that's actually pretty awesome. Like
Yeah.
you were born evil and you decided to shed that and make yourself something that you originally didn't begin as, which I think is inspirational. Like, I mean, none of us are born evil as humans. It's not like we live in a black and white universe where there's good people and bad people, but we're all born human, right? With our limitations and, you know, the difficulties of the, you know, our upbringing and the situations that we were born into and the things that we're taught as children or modeled by our parents as children, whether those things are good or bad. And then we all have our own struggles, and to be able to overcome those struggles through great effort. I think it's great effort, isn't there? Somewhere?
Yeah, because the actual quote was, "What is better, to be born?" Don't put an ad on my screen. I will destroy you. What is better, to be born good or to overcome your evil nature through great effort?
Through great effort, right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really deep thing. I mean, you know, go talk to Aramithius. There's a lot of interesting philosophy and things in these games. And I think that's a really cool quote and a really cool direction for a character.
I
Plus,
just love how
character development.
He is. Yeah, he's just such a like Zen character up there, which I love. He's so cool.
His quote that we were just talking about kind of reminds me, and I'm not sure if this reference is going to land or go way off to the side. No one's going to get it. But at the end of A Tale of Two Cities, the ending quote, I forget the character's name, but he's the tax collector, and he says, you know, it's a far, far better thing that I do now than anything I've ever done. And it's a far, far better rest that I go to now than any I've ever known.
I know what you're talking about.
And it's kind of like the completion of his arc, which is redemption in and of itself.
Right.
You know, that
he
wasn't proud of his life, but now he's doing something that he can finally be proud of.
Yeah,
and which gives him
worth
peace.
something in the end.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was like super inspirational and all that stuff that you guys were just talking about. But let me just, you know, tear all that apart. I'm just kidding. But
I don't have lips, and it doesn't make sense.
I was under the impression that he was forced at first, right, to help by Kine.
Well, I've had some debate on this. So he was like a pretty brutal, like sub-general.
Yeah, he was killing. He was hard. He was going hard, man.
He was going hard, and
He's going hard.
Yeah, he was.
He was.
The thing was, I think of I don't remember whether it was like intervention that made him do it, or if it kind of got to the point where it was like, okay, like what are we even doing here? And the like extreme lust for power that Alduin was having, I thought was starting to be like a turnoff to him or something like that. And then it just kind of, he leaned in the other direction. But I don't, was there like a divine reason that he did it too?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
This needs to go on our list of things to dig into. So we're not just like remembering things from 5 years ago trying to go, is this what the story happened?
It's not too bad. I looked it up and it's just like, it's the Nordic legend is that Kine intervened, but he claims that it was Alduin's false claim of godhood. So it's kind of one of those like, who really knows, you know?
So unreliable narrative version of what we literally just stumbled into through. Bro, don't kill these people.
Right. Yeah. Either way, Parthernax, along with several other dragons, betrayed their former master and taught mankind to use the Thu'um. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So, yeah, we should do an episode on dragons and all that stuff, too. There's so many things to talk about every time we go over this stuff. So, all right. So, let's wrap this up. I think Parthernax is probably a solid number one.
I'm fine with him being number one. That if you're going to pick somebody from that game to be number one,
outside of just like the Dragonborn themselves, I mean, right? But
he's not an NPC, right? This is an NPC. Right.
He is literally a PC.
He is the PC.
The PC.
And he has whatever personality you give him because you're the one making the choices. So,
it's kind of funny. There's a few characters that I'm surprised. Like, I like Leggett Ricka, or however you want to pronounce her name. Like, she's a cool character, but like, really, we didn't get Brynjolf up there, or like,
Brynjolf is 12. Hadver is 11. Brunuin is 13. General Tulias is 14. Jazargo 16. Farkas is 18. Yeah. They're all in here. Astrid 24.
Oh yeah, Astrid's cool.
Heimskr, the guy who's preaching about Talos in Whiterun. He's like standing there preaching to everybody as he walked by.
Oh my god, I forgot about that dude. Yeah. So I mean, these are all voted on. So these are just the ones that people on the internet voted highest. So gotcha.
Seems like voted Serrano that low. Oh my god.
What's the name of the antagonist in line?
That antagonist in what? You broke up.
College of Winterhold.
Oh, the bad guy. Yeah, the one who tries to take all the power.
I thought he was pretty good.
Artano,
villain.
that was it. Yes, Artano.
Yeah.
He was interesting. No, even the old wizard, the guy that's running the college.
One.
Yeah.
Look, at this point, I think it's pretty universal in chat that we've started a Nazim rebellion where Nazim's in the Dark Brotherhood.
Nazim is the one true king, says Crystal. Crystal's always trying to find the thing to say that is going to be least popular in chat, and I think he found it. I was
going to say this is going off real well because I'm all about Nazim's awesome. He's just got he's a I don't even like the Dark Brotherhood. There was a recent post on Twitter where it was like what was it? I think you even responded how much you like the Dark Brotherhood, but it's like post an unpopular opinion.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I ripped on the Dark Brotherhood, but no ripping on Nazim. He's cool. Astrid's cool too.
Ripping on Nazim. All right. So, hey, you know what, Bob? We never got to hear who your favorite NPC is. And this doesn't just have to be Skyrim. This is just the list that I happen to found to discuss. But do you have a favorite NPC? It can be from Elder Scrolls Online. It can be from any of the other Elder Scrolls games.
So I have a few I'm going to toss in really quick, and I will try to get not too spoilery. It is all ESO stuff. 2 sets of NPCs very specifically. From the Murkmire DLC, if you guys have ever done
very
that
specific
storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The 2 Argonians that you deal with throughout the entirety of it, Zukas and Jaxic Orn, are just amazingly written, both of them. Their stories are so awesome, and it's really like, I feel like that quest line in itself probably drags you into like those characters almost more than anything else in Elder Scrolls. And that could be saying a lot because some of the characters you're really with for a long time. But like I said, trying not to get too,
that's probably something a lot of people haven't played all the way through. Go play through it. I mean, if you really want a glimpse into Argonian life, and
it is so well written. Like, it's really good. And you really get to see, like, because, when you think Argonians, it's like, oh, they're Argonians over there. But when you get into it and you're like, oh, okay, so, they have subcultures and all this different stuff. And, you get to learn all about the Brightthroats, and then you get to go and learn all about the Deadwater tribe.
Right. And the hatching and the connection to the Hiss.
Oh, yeah.
And all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, just super well written, and those 2 in particular, you really just get a good relationship with, and you get to, do some really cool stuff with. And then, so those 2 are really awesome, and these 2, the next 2 are probably my favorite. Like, these characters stuck with me a lot in Elder Scrolls Online, which is saying a lot because usually for me, I do stories and it's like, it's in one ear out the other ear.
You're like, this is taken away from my PvP time.
So much. Exactly. Right. I'm playing so much of the next 2 months, waiting for the next DLC. I'm like, oh yeah, what happened in that last one? Crap, I gotta remember.
Mm-hmm.
So
who's this really tall lady again with an axe? Yeah.
So in Southern Elsewhere, though, you get introduced to Zaji and Kaska, and those 2 Khajiit are amazing. They are the reason.
I'm trying to remember them. Zaji. I'm so bad with names.
They are the pirates, man. They run the ship.
Oh, yeah. The pirate ones. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep. You got the Centrot Kaska, who's just always harping on everything Zaji does because he's just the screw up goofball captain of the ship. And oh my god, those 2 characters resonated with me so much.
Oh, those wacky guys, they just crack me up.
Yeah, because it's you got the one guy who's just totally always screwing everything up, and Kaska is always cleaning up after him, and she knows it too. And she even tells him how stupid the stuff he's doing is sometimes. He's like, oh, I'm gonna do it anyways, man. I'm Zaji. This is what I do.
I'm Zaji. Yeah.
So
awesome. Those are some good takes. I
love those characters.
Yeah.
Just to kind of support that, I actually was super lukewarm on Murkmire until I met Jaxik Orn and Zukas. Like that literally, that went for me one that I was like, oh, I'm really curious to see this region. And I was kind of like, okay, this is all right. Once their stories got going, I was like, wow, I love this DLC. And I still stand by the fact that it's woefully underappreciated.
Yeah, I think there's just kind of an assumption that like it's just going to be Argonians, and Argonians are kind of one note, you know, and you're just going to get a lot of this as you walk around talking to lizard people. But there's, I mean, you're right. There is a lot of really interesting character development. There's good characters. There are characters that even just some of the distinction between the Argonians who grew up in the area and the ones who don't.
Yeah.
Like that stuff plays into it, the culture, like there's a lot going on in just that quest line for sure. Tuttle Power in chat says Argonians are not one note. Blasphemy. Yeah, no, that's my point, is they're not. But there's that. I think that if you hadn't played through some of that stuff and you just see, you know, an occasional Argonian in the town talking like this, that might be your assumption, is that there's just not that much there. But there really is.
Tuttle Power, huh? I wonder who that could be.
That is. It's probably a Ninja Turtle fan. That's my guess.
Most likely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this has been awesome. I wanted to we've gone pretty long. It's time to kind of wrap this up, but just as a last minute thing, because we kind of pulled things back to ESO, the other things that I was thinking about was the main original quest line, those main characters, you know, Lyris and his name falls out of my names are falling out of my brain. Sai Sahan and Abner Tharn and Manny Marco. And do you guys have any thoughts on any of those main characters? Because they do reoccur throughout some of the expansions. And in my opinion, I think Manny Marco is actually a really cool villain. He starts out as a little, you know, kind of like we mentioned on some of these other characters, a little rote, you know, like, oh, the high elf who thinks he's more powerful than everyone else and wants to ascend to power, blah, 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 blah. But he shows up he shows up throughout the timeline in multiple ways. He carries many hats. He's constantly got an interesting scheme going on. He's trying to ascend to godhood. You know, like there's some cool stuff going on with him as a like major villain.
Yeah,
he tried to outdo the god of schemes.
Right.
Like,
yeah, that's pretty high.
That's
what are you thinking, dude? Like, come on. Like the guy.
That's a goal right there.
It is certainly a goal, but I mean, when your entire existence is based around out scheming people, be like, you know who I'm gonna out scheme? This guy. He's the one.
I mean, you're setting the bar right there. You're like, whatever. I can pull one over on Tharn. What's that? You know, I'm gonna take on Molag Ball.
Yeah, that's lofty goals. Aiming high, as Crystal King puts.
Aiming high.
Yeah.
I love Manny Marco because I've never heard Abner Tharn be such a dog to anyone else. Like he's just a lap dog. He's like, oh, Manny Marco, don't hurt me. And then he betrays him and he's like, oh yeah, I'm so cool, man. I was always gonna betray you. And Manny Marco's like, man, I don't care, dude.
we need a retelling. We need the Bob's retelling of all the stories in ESO.
That's what we should do. We got to do a retelling, and we'll all just casually do it as if it's
character.
I don't care,
dude. I don't even care, man. Like this is fine.
Whatever.
It's cool, man.
You guys suck.
You go over to your little cavern over there. You guys are in.
You guys go back to your little cave.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about any of the other companions? I think Varian Aquilarius is probably the least popular of the group, right?
Yes. I without spoiling anything, I mean, granted, it's been out for a long time, but I still won't spoil anything. I personally, because of a choice I made in the main campaign, think that Sai Sahan is the coolest, which is
he's pretty cool.
Yeah,
pretty cool dude.
He was.
He didn't break.
That's what I mean. It's like, man, that is hardcore.
You are being tortured by Manny Marco, basically in oblivion, And well, remind me, does Mullet Ball
has got a hand in that?
Yeah, he's got a hand in that too, right?
Yeah.
So right, okay, because that's before he betrays Mullet Ball, and Mullet Ball knows that he's scheming against him.
Yeah, they were wabbajacking him for a long time.
They were
and Abner Tharn too is there at that point torturing him.
Oh yeah, so he's dealing with the absolute worst torture you probably could be inflicted on a mortal, and he doesn't break. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, that's why he was out of the companions. I mean, Lyris is really cool too. I like her character, but yeah, it's Sai Sahan was.
I like that she's
favorite.
Tough but reasonable.
Yes,
she's she's staunch and she's sure of herself, but when presented with evidence, like even the most recent expansion, which I would ruin it for Lotus if I explain some of the stuff that happens. She, when she runs up against things that she doesn't expect, there's dialogue where she goes, "Wow, I didn't expect that. That sucks, but now we need to do this instead. So here we go."
She's not just like a bulldozer, just smash all the things.
Right.
Like with her coming back this year, I kind of felt like I don't want to spoil anything too, so I'm just going to be super vague right now. But I kind of felt like I was expecting her to be a little bit more or less one-dimensional. It was just kind of like you see her and she's like, "All right, you're fighting, cool, I'll see you later."
There's a good bit about that. I liked her
connection
to who's the vampire guy? What's his name?
Fen.
Fen. Love that dynamic, the way that grows over time.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Because she doesn't trust him at all at first.
I also am a vampire and played through it as a vampire, so it was me and another vampire and her, and that comes through in the dialogue. And she's like, "Oh, okay." So I think at one point she even says something like, "Who would have expected me and two vampires in order to working to save Skyrim," or something like that. So yeah, there's kind of a side dynamic that can occur with that, I believe.
Yep.
I will jump in and say though, I don't know if you guys have really, or anyone has actually done some reading on Varen's rise to power, but he was actually a very impressive dude.
Yeah, we talked about that on the Longhouse Emperors episode a little bit.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah. When he was a duke and he responded.
Man, just really badass dude. And then the whole big wall in Kvatch, it's like Varen's wall he built, thing to defend the Empire. I don't know. There's some cool stuff, but he definitely messed up,
Oh, sure. Sure. I think he had probably good. I mean, there were selfish intentions.
Good intentions. Yeah, selfish, but for the most part, I mean, trying to do the general good thing,
you can't fault somebody just because they get something out of doing something good that it's not good. I think there would have been good
Marco
things.
could have been telling him, "Hey man, this would be pretty cool if you did this. I think it'll make you
you'll protect the realm. You'll be able to protect the realm because the real emperor will be back on the seat." Yeah, sure. I can see that.
But rarely do you have even the best rulers. Rarely are you going to get to the position where you can rule without some degree of ambition. And
sure.
Yeah.
Even when doing it for a benevolent reason, you have to have some selfish means to get there. Because very rarely are people just going to be like, "Yeah, this dude, just give him everything he wants all the time. That's fine. It'll probably work itself out." It's like, no, usually you fight for the power and then try to do something good.
Yeah, you have to vouch for yourself at least to a certain amount. All right, so the final thing, Abner Tharn, total douche. Or is his douchiness justified? Because he really is pretty smart, powerful.
I was
dude.
hoping for a douche scale, total douche
scale,
moderate douche,
all right, so
or minimal douchosity.
Right. All right. So yeah, let's use that. Total douche, that's a 10, right? Moderate douche is a 5. Okay. Minimal douche. Obviously, he's not a minimal douche. He's got some douche in it. But is he justified? Is his douchiness
he's still on the douche chart no matter what?
Still, he's definitely on the douche chart. But is his douchiness? The word's the word. You're gonna wabbajack him. His douchiness is his douchiness justified, or is it still just not? Without too much spoilers.
Well, he tortured Queen Irene, so right there off the rip.
Pretty douchey, right?
That's pretty douchey.
Pretty
man.
douchey.
Like I know Lotus hates Queen Irene.
I was gonna say, we're on the page
man.
that's not good. Ooh, all right.
Some majestic queen elf of her people, and this imperial dude's like, oh man, you're out like touring Cyrodiil, like I'm gonna capture you and torture you. Like, okay, cool, dude.
It's pretty douchey.
Sure.
Oh, great or good.
Well, what about with the events of Elsewhere?
It was his fault. I mean, like,
What's his fault?
but
He stands up against his sister, who's like clearly higher on the douche scale.
Oh yeah, she's.
But they're family, and then his daughter is out there like, the Elder Scroll is mine. Like, you got the whole family running around, and he's like the kingpin, the imperial chancellor up here. Just
he comes like traditionally from a very douchey family.
Yeah,
I mean, he's kind of the best of the group. He's got to get some credit for that, right?
So if I'm being honest,
diamond. I mean, who knows what he's trying to do with that thing?
If I'm being honest with you guys, I haven't played ESO since like, it must have been like 2013, 2014. Like I beta tested.
Okay,
and
so
then
you only get the base level of what Abner Tharn has done.
I've never played any of the DLC. I've actually, since it's on Game Pass now, and I've actually re-downloaded because I had it on computer, but I never slots, but I have it on Game Pass. And so I've been trying to get back into it with my girlfriend because that's not one of those games where you can just like, at least I don't think I could sit down and just solo a lot of things, like, I'd really have to push my stuff.
I like to play through the story stuff solo.
I do too, but I think that's more of a minority thing. I think most people don't really do that too much unless they just burn through it. Like, actually care about the story of it.
It's hard to do with a group sometimes because it's you want to do it and get it over.
Or you want to sit and read it, and other people are already moving on to the next part of the quest, and you're like, yeah.
That's the hardest.
Doing it with your girl that's a great way to do it, honestly.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts so far? Yeah. How far have you gotten into it?
So the farthest that I got was I had a character that's level 32, I think. So, and that one was like played from the beginning. I had no idea. Like I don't play MMOs, so I chose Templar. I was like, this sounds good. And then I just decided that I would put all my points in stamina. So I lost interest. I can't remember when I think I lost interest when Fallout 4. And so when Fallout 4 came out, if I have the timeline right in my head, I just was like all about Fallout after that. And then didn't play it at all. But now that I'm picking it back up, it looks like so much has changed. Like so much has been built upon and improved and changed. And
when you were playing it originally, that level 30 something probably took you, I don't know, 80, 100 hours to just get to, and you only got pieces of the storyline as you had to do all the other quests in the area in order to try to level up in order to move to the next area. It's completely different now. You can just run the quest and get through the quest line and just
really?
Everything's scaled to you too, so you never have to go, like, you're never unintentionally out leveled by something. It's all scaled as if it was a single player game, so you can just be like, I want to do this story, and the things will stay in a proportion to you. So if you know what you're doing, you're good to go regardless of what you're fighting. It's just based on you connected to your character, which if you're playing a Stamplar, you're in a really good position.
The Stamplar is going to be it's going to be easy to run through the quest as a Stamplar. The other thing is the other thing is that even if you're listening to all the dialogue, which is all voice acted, of course, you can mainline the main quest, and I don't know what the official time is, but
I think
15 hours. And just kind of get through it
as much as I could when I could. So I remember, like when you were talking about with Sai Sahan being tortured. For some reason, I remember that. Maybe it's false memory. But
it's pretty early on as you're kind of reacquiring the companions back to your group. So I think I finished as much as I could back then, and man, I was like super into it there for a little while. I ran a clan or a guild, and it had like 180 people in it. And then it got to be so much just maintaining it, and like we did a raffle. I remember that we did a raffle
organize it, and then putting out the announcements and everything. And
dude, if you're jumping back into PC, feel free to join us and play with us in the guild. And if you want to help, I mean, I'd even love help doing guild events and running that stuff. Lincoln usually handles that stuff. He's been a little bit busy with school and some other things. So yeah, I'd love to keep doing more of that stuff. So if you're looking for other people to play with and help you get through the quests and help you understand how to build your character, you know, any of us here would be awesome. Yeah. We'd be happy to do that. So, okay, so let's wrap this up. Abner Tharn, justified douche, total douche, completely unjustified douche. Like, where are we at?
1,000 on the scale.
1,000
I remember,
off the charts douche.
From what I remember, unmitigated douche.
Unmitigated douche.
Say, you're in the story where he's an unmitigated douche for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I say he lowers down to just moderate level.
Moderate douche. Kind of semi-justified.
Is it enough to put his bust in your house? That's the real question.
I did not. I would not. That would go right next to the Snow Prince thing, which is out back in the dumpster. I don't need that in my life.
Wait, you actually put them in a dumpster in the back of your house?
So
Bottom, just put them in the dumpster.
There's this antiquity lead that you can get out of Kind's Aegis. I assume you can get it anywhere in Western Skyrim, but yeah, I know because I get it all the time. Every time I run Kind's Aegis, pretty much, you get a lead for the seat of the Snow Prince, and it's the Snow Prince's throne. And I'm like, great, I know what I'm going to do with that. And I keep getting them, and I keep jamming them in this pond scum in the back of one of my houses, and I'm like, this is where the Snow Prince belongs.
You need to post pictures of this. I want to see this.
Okay, yeah.
That's awesome. You're just like garbage dump in the back.
Yep.
That's great.
Just stack them up.
All right. So I get the opinions here about Abner. I think he's a little justified in douchiness. I also think, so here's my perspective on him. He comes from a very learned background. He's very educated, and he interacts with lots of different people. So I think there's a lot of people he interacts with who he thinks are just complete idiots, because compared to some of the information he has, they kind of are. Now, he's a douche about it, but at the same time, he does know a lot of things. So you can know a lot of things and not be a jerk, right? So I don't know. Also, he's getting kind of old. By the end of it, he's complaining about like, oh, in my younger days, I would have been able to take on that thing all by myself, you know?
Right. Yeah, he's the poster boy for like an aspirin ad by the end as he's limping around and
yeah,
stuff.
He's like that used to be easier. I used to be able to conjure whatever magic from my butt or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, so all right.
That's where they conjure it, all right.
That's where magic comes from in Elder Scrolls Online. Don't tell Tuttle Power I said that. It comes out of your butt.
Canon lore right there.
Canon lore. All right. That sounds disgusting. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. This has been super fun. Guys, let's wrap this up. We're going to go backwards. We're going to start with Bob. Bob, do you have anything cool to shout out about or tell people about or tell them how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, totally. The coolest thing ever I could talk about is my podcast, the Red Diamond Courier, which is part of the Robots Radio Network. You guys can go check it out there. Companion show to this very one you're listening to now. We talk about all kinds of stuff in-game in the Elder Scrolls Online. Both Robots and Lotus have been on it. I mean, there is an endless amount of good things you could go listen to in the Red Diamond Courier.
We're all buddies here, yeah.
Go check it out. You can even hear my co-host Dog talk about his love for Abner Tharn. So you got that going. if you love Abner Tharn, you didn't get enough here. You know, it's there.
We need to get Doggett on the show.
Yeah.
We have Abner Tharn episode with Doggett.
Abner Tharn. There you go. And outside that, I'm in the Robots Radio Discord. You could hit me up there, and I am on Twitter all the time at Bob _ Chichinsky, and our Twitter for the show is at Red Diamond Cast.
I still think you should slim your name down to Bob Chickens so people can it's easier to find you.
I mean, but then the chickens would be too
Bob Chickens and Dog. The Chickens and Dog show. Yeah.
Everyone says Bob Chickens anyways.
I know.
It's good.
How many times did I reference you as Bob Chickens until you said the name that I could actually hear it phonetically? It's just
you were one of the ones who, when you tried it the first time, you actually got it right. So that's pretty good. You got this made up word I made in my head, right? But I mean, there it is.
Awesome. Well, go check out the podcast. Also, the Robots Radio Discord is just blowing up today. I think we've had tons of new people popping in. So come talk about Elder Scrolls with us and find people to play with you and things like that. All right, Kung Fu, how can people get a hold of you? And do you have anything cool to talk about that you want to share?
Well, I don't run a podcast. So I primarily play when I'm playing online. I play on Xbox One. So anyone with an Xbox One is very welcome to send me a message on Xbox. My name is not Kung Fu Kangaroo.
Kung Fu, you almost said Kung Fu Panda.
I almost did. Would have been DreamWorks some money then. No, my name on Xbox is actually N7 and then spell out 7, and that's a Mass Effect reference, definitely. But it's N7 space Legend. Just spelled like that.
Cool.
So yeah, if anyone wants to play, I usually play like Elder Scrolls. Of course, I'll be playing Elder Scrolls Online now.
Yeah.
I play Fallout 76.
Play some, Mass Effect 3 multiplayer with you, I guess. Huh?
Absolutely, I love Mass Effect. Andromeda was a nightmare, but we won't get into that.
I still play
that's a whole
3
other
multiplayer
topic.
for a reason.
And I also play Call of Duty too sometimes. So if anyone wants to play some multiplayer games, and if you're not sure, just send me a message, see what games I have.
Jump in the Discord and just kind of add them on the Discord. And there's an all games section, so if you want to just find other people to group up with whatever games you're playing, you're welcome to do that as well. Yeah,
in the Discord, Kung Fu Kangaroo.
Awesome. Lotus, you guys have anything cool going on with Tales of Tamriel lately?
We just celebrated our 250th dumpster fire last week, and as in,
do you keep them in the backyard with the rest of the?
Oh man, yeah, it's made of nothing but snow princes at this point. Oh my god, we had so many technical issues, but Ark managed to stitch it together to have it. It was certainly an interesting episode.
Yes,
we've got
last episode I jumped in and said something accidentally. That way, I promise. My misspelling of glitter.
It's a permitted term at this point, so it doesn't even matter.
Right. If you replace the G in glitter and turn it into something that is absolutely dirty, that's what I accidentally mistyped.
Which we immediately approved because of a really off-color comment that I made to something in the pre-show. So it was. We had the original founder of joined us. He has stepped away a while ago now, and but every now and then he'll join us for landmark episodes. Like we actually had like a serious one when we hit 200 because that was just like crazy, and this one was more of a goofy landmark thing just because at this point, man, we are relics in podcast age when you get into how long's your podcast been on the air? It's like six years. It's like woof. But I was going to say we did that. Otherwise, I've been trying to figure out when I can stream again because I want to finish up Elder Scrolls Arena. And actually, I guess maybe I'm not sure I shouted out. So I guess the most useful thing that I should mention if you do anything that relates to me is our Extra Life Marathon is coming up October 16th. We are starting at 6 p.m. with Hyper Pixie, and we are going to relay the marathon for 48 hours straight, nonstop.
It's going to be epic.
And it's hopefully going to be pretty epic. We are raising money for the Boston Children's Hospitals and Extra Life, which is why I kind of got into any of this to begin with. Mm-hmm. And it's a cause I definitely believe in. So, we'll be doing that. We've got tons of stuff to give away, lots of prizes, courtesy of Zos, who has been very generous to help us raise money. So we've got lots of good stuff to give away just for hanging out. Even if you can't donate financially, that's totally fine. Even just supporting the cause is still awesome because it might link to somebody who can donate. So
or just showing up in the stream in order to help it be a little bit more noticeable on Twitch, so other people jump into it. Yeah. For sure.
So keep coming up with more. That's kind of the one thing I plug each year is the one mega marathon we do. But pretty excited for that. That should be some fun times. We're working on a couple interesting landmarks, which if we can figure out the finer details, I'll have more information as it gets closer.
Very cool. Awesome stuff. Speaking of charities, if you are watching us on our why is my Amazon Echo talking at me? I didn't say your name. You think it would have triggered when I said Serrano, maybe, but nope. Anyway, if you are joining us on the live stream, any donations that we get on the Robots Radio Twitch channel, and we've been doing this for like the last month and a half now, all the way until the election, will be going towards charity to fight against government corruption, because we will all benefit from a more, a government that actually represents the people more, which would be awesome. So yeah, any subs, any donations, anything like that. So if you decide to join us in the future and would like to support that as a cause, you're welcome to do that. Also, I am, as a way of giving back to the community, doing office hours after my live shows on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturday nights. This show's on Thursday night and it starts a little bit later at 10 p.m. Eastern, which means we run a little bit later. So it's a little bit late to kind of do the office hours thing. But on Monday nights, Wednesday nights, and Saturday nights, I have the Fallout Lorecast, the Dungeons & Dragons Lorecast, and the Cyberpunk Lorecast. And after those shows get done at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, I am doing at least half an hour of office hours to help anybody in the community who's interested in learning about podcasting, making videos, streaming, technical questions, marketing questions, anything at all that you have that you would love to, be interested in, getting somebody with a little bit more experience helping you out. Doing that for free. Come by the streams, come out for the shows, stay for the office hours, and then I'll be playing games after that. So I've been playing a lot of Fallout 76, but I definitely need to jump back into Elder Scrolls Online, play through some more of that stuff, especially with all the new content coming out soon. So that's what I've been doing. And if you are following our Twitter accounts, or if you're not following our Twitter accounts, then check those out as well. It's a wonderful way to stay connected, and come join us on the Discord. That's what we got going on. Thank you guys again for being here. And thank you, chat, for showing up for the live show. And if you missed the live show and you want to watch this with our actual meat faces, then look up the Robots Radio YouTube channel as well, as a wonderful way to check out the live video version of the podcast. All right, guys. Have a good week. We'll talk to you later. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. All sounds and music are owned by Bethesda Softworks or ZeniMax Studios, and no copyright infringement is intended. If you have something you'd like to contribute to the show, please reach out to us at elderscrollslorecast@gmail.com or on Twitter @ESO Lorecast. If you'd like to help support the show, check out the rewards you can get at patreon.com/elderscrollslorecast. I really appreciate you listening, and I'd love to hear from you soon. And thanks to our patrons for support, especially our Tier 5 patrons, including Noodle Al Dente.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.